Holidays are in the air, and in the spirit of giving, I want to give you something to help you grow your business. It's Daryl Urbanski here, and I'd like to gift you one of my courses for free. Others have paid over $1,000 US, but if you act now, you can get it for free as my thank you for being a member of our audience. To get in, go to bestbusinesscoach.ca/free gift. This offer won't last long and will help make 2019 your best year ever. So please go to bestbusinesscoach.ca/free gift for your end of 2018 treat. Invest a few minutes in yourself. Your only risk is missing out if you don't get it. So go to bestbusinesscoach.ca/free gift and have a happy holiday season. Now that's awesome. And I'm glad you brought that up because that's such a true thing. I mean, because for a lot of people in business, first just getting like the clients, like they're just surprised people even buy. Like that's the big like, wow, but then you actually have to collect the money. And something like what you're going through, I mean, you're doing coaching and training, so you're okay. But if you're actually shipping out like hard product, like you actually had to have something manufactured and shipped out. I mean, that can kill a business, right? And you've done everything you can to work with the merchant account providers, right?
Yeah, oh, totally. And so it's we're swapping over a little bit and we're processing future payments through somebody else because we've kind of diverted that and kind of solved the problem a little bit. But I mean, we're still having to deal with that because they're still. I mean, they have our money, so they have the power there.
Do you have a regular to-do list or checklist of things that you focus on in a day to make sure that you're successful, that you're constantly pushing the ball forward and you're not getting caught up in red tape? Or, you know what I mean? Like, what do you think has, I'll let you answer that before I hit you with more questions.
I mean, that's probably one of my biggest strengths is that I'm super self-disciplined. So I'm pretty on it when it comes to staying in the routine and stuff like that. So just planning out my days the night before and planning out my week on a Sunday afternoon, stuff like that. That really helps me not get stuck in the weeds. And because a lot of people just start their week with no plan. And then before you know it, you come out of the fog and it's Thursday and you say, oh, well, there's only one more day. I guess I got to start being productive next week, and you just go from week to week to week. And so what's really helped for me is to be super intentional going into the week of like, hey, here's everything I need to get done this week. Here's the day I'm going to do it on. And then the night before, each day, just saying, all right, here's my top 3 tomorrow. Or here's what I have to do. And that just helps me be proactive and wake up proactively and do the things that are going to move my business forward, rather than waking up and reacting to all the other things that people want me to do, which can be tough. Like when you're in a coaching business or, we have a big school of people that we're teaching to write, market, and publish their first book. Like, there's a lot of demands, whether it's from our coaches, from our community managers, from students, all that. So it's like you have to know what you need to get done in spite of that so that you can kind of move your business forward while also making your customers happy. Hey, look, it's going to be no BS, no fluff, only exactly what you need and the best stuff out there. And as a result, it's going to be pretty expensive. Like our course, there's a ton of courses cheaper than ours. We're at the higher end of the market, but we like doing that because we want to work with higher quality individuals and also be able to provide a higher level of service. So like, sending them the thank you cards when they register and, going extra, having actual coaches that call them every week and keep them on track and just certain things like that. But then also, as a part of that, it's like setting the expectations very well. So I think part of providing an amazing customer experience is setting your customers in line when they're out of line. So when their expectations are off or when they're giving us a lot of slack or something, it's readjusting the expectations or just simply saying, hey, we can't work together. We're not, like if they're really giving us a hard time, they're not the kind of customer that we would want to work with, and they're throwing off everyone else in the community. So we would rather just say, hey, this isn't going to work out than have everyone else's experience suffer because of that.
So the method that you've taken, Chandler, I don't know if you realize that, but that's a really, really smart move for the long-term perspective because first of all, you're attracting a higher quality clientele. I don't know why it is. I've just noticed that when you can charge a premium price and you get people that pay that price, they tend to be better clients. Why? I don't know. I don't get it, but it just is. Anytime I have someone that requests special financing or payment plans and stuff, and they can't do the default, it's always more of a hassle. Like it's not just like, oh sure, we'll set up a bi-weekly payment instead of a monthly. Like it's always way more than just that.
Yeah.
So how did you
And
come onto
that's,
that? Who put you onto that?
yeah, well, it was totally my dad. And he's run a construction business for a really long time. And he always talked to me about how, because he started out in business just like you were saying, just cheapest. And then eventually he got to where now what people say about him is, hey, Larry Bolt, he's definitely not the cheapest, but he'll do the best job. Like that's what people say when they refer him. And so how he was sparked onto that is he was the cheapest guy, but he was really good. And what he found is that when people were referring other people to him, they were like, yeah, go with Larry if he's really cheap. And then that really pissed him off because he was like, wait, I don't want to be known for being really cheap. I do awesome work. And so then he started raising his prices. And because it's funny, like you were saying, when you're a lower price, those are the kind of people you attract because when people are referring, they say, hey, he's really cheap. So now you attract cheap customers that care about money. And
Right.
the same thing you were saying. So when I did my first, maybe it was like my second or third business, but in college, it was the first time I hit six figures, and it was with a company called Student Painters, and they trained me how to run an exterior painting business. And throughout that course of that year, I did a ton of jobs, and there were only two people because I said, I'm going to pay my employees more than everyone else in the company, and that means my jobs are going to be more expensive than everyone else. But that's the way I'm going to do it because I'm going to expect more out of my employees, and we're going to do an awesome job. Kind of modeling it right after my dad. And also, while everyone else was discounting, I was like, I'm not going to discount because that's selling on price.
Yep.
My dad told me not to do that. And so I only did it twice. And the two people I discounted for were the biggest pain in the you-know-what
Yep.
the entire summer. I had like virtually no problems, but those two were just tons of problems.
And so many businesses are afraid to do that. They're afraid of saying no. And when you ask someone who their client is, they're like, well, everybody, I can help everybody, which means they're for nobody because nobody goes and buys a shoe. You buy a running shoe, you buy a hiking shoe, you buy a dance shoe, you buy a dress shoe, right? So, anyways, forgive me for my rant, Chandler, but I just think that's awesome. You've done so many of the right things. I think it's awesome. I really do. So your dad obviously is a great source of advice for you. What is another sort, like what's some of the best advice either your dad or one of your mentors has ever given you?
One of the best advice, or the best quote, I guess, and this is funny because it's actually, I saw this in the original source. I looked it up. The original source is, I think, from like Mary Kate Olsen. Like, Mary Kate and Ashley. I was like, oh gosh, I never thought I'd take advice from those girls. It was actually a really good piece of advice, and it was never take advice from someone who you wouldn't gladly switch places with.
Yes.
So the way I look at that is like, if there's a guy who's just crushing it in business, but he doesn't have the life that I want, or maybe he's divorced and his kids hate him and he's miserable and all that stuff, why would I take advice from that person? I don't want to be like him.
Success isn't a mystery, and honestly, it's part of why I put these podcasts together. I mean, this all started because I just helped a client, and I'd had my first experience generating multiple millions of dollars, and obviously not for myself, but for one of my clients, and it was just such a awe-inspiring thing because I just didn't realize how powerful the tools that I've been using for a couple of years were until I've clicked things together. And I was having coffee with a friend, and he basically said, "Yeah, Daryl, if I had access to the people you had access to sit down and just have a conversation with them like this, I'd be doing $1 million marketing campaigns as well." And that's what kind of sparked this off. And one of the things, like you're saying, is, and I'm bringing this out because I think it's a good point. So he took a risk, but it wasn't really a risk because he had the numbers. And when you said before, you said the two things that you really need to get better at are focusing on your numbers and taking bigger risks. And I think in some ways, it's not necessarily risk taking because how you did it was so smart. Like when you talk about how he was profitable every month of his business, you were profitable because you launched your product before you even had it ready. And I love that. Right.
Like being risky is, like you were saying, just jumping off a cliff into the river and you don't even know if anyone's ever done it or if the river's deep enough.
Right.
you know? So it's like taking those calculated risks. But in terms of numbers, we should be tracking. We've got to. There's a lot of them. We got to track our cash flow a lot better. I mean, really, like it's analytics, it's, opt-in percentages, it's our list growth over time, it's our cost per click, our customer acquisition. Like, we've been tracking a lot of that stuff on a smaller level, but it just needs to come to the forefront, and especially with our cash flow, that's where we really being super on our expenses, on our month to month, on our projections, and yeah, it's a lot.
Right. Yep. Yep. Well, there's a couple of numbers that you want to always keep your eye on. So obviously, let's go over a couple of those. So first of all, it's your cost per lead, cost per sale, net profit. Cash is always king because, like, as you learn the hard way, right? When your cash, as long as cash is good, you're okay. You can have a lot of account receivables, but if you're not collecting or able to pay your bills, that can cause a lot of problems. So cost per lead, cost per sale, lifetime customer value, net profit, your cash flow, and there's a couple others which I think some really good numbers for you and anyone else listening to this call. There's a book called Libey, Libey, on RFM, and in fact you can buy it, or the whole book is online for free if you search for it, and it talks about recency, frequency, and monetary value. And those three numbers are huge this time. What did you do? What were the key components of this launch that made it their biggest success?
It was, we had a lot of good affiliates. We did a lot of Facebook ad traffic. Really, we hired Kurt Malley and those guys. They knocked it out of the park. And we spent some money on Facebook ads. We did a lot of different stuff. We hired a copywriter who he did really well. Just really kind of built out the team a little more, and then also just put a lot into it. And we launched a new book, which kind of blew up, and we kind of practice what we preach in terms of launching books. And so we launched one called Book Launch, and it's kind of like a 10,000-foot view of what we teach. And that book brought us in 2,000 leads in a month, and that was leading up to the launch of Self-Publishing School. So, that really did well, and overall it did well. I mean, we just about tripled members from the first time, and we were pretty happy with it. The only thing that we need to do better is refine our offer a little bit. The offer didn't convert quite as well as we wanted to. So we definitely need to refine that, and then the higher tier of the program didn't convert as well as it did last time. So we've got to tweak that offer a little bit and make that offer better.
That's awesome. That's awesome.